Welcome to the Mindful Escape podcast. My name's Leighton Jewett and I'm your host. And today our guest is Suzy, who talks about mindset struggles throughout her journey. She gives lots of tips and tricks, advice, no matter what stage of the journey you're at. So listen closely and we'll jump straight in. Suzy, thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Escape. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I would call myself a bit of a job business jumper as opposed to a lot of your, real fancy corporate types that you've had. But I sort of feel like it's woven itself into my fabric and actually makes me really good at what I do now, which is I help people to figure out their dream business so that they can be free, live where, do what they want, when they want, and not have to listen to some man. And I mean that as the man. Although it usually is a man, but anyways, and yeah, be happy, right? Get to live up to your fullest potential, right? So
Amazing. And was there something in particular along your journey that made you want to get into this type of business?
I will say that I have been doing this sort of randomly, by accident, naturally, for like 30 years. And I think that happens with a lot of people is you are who you are and your gifts are your gifts. You're either nosy or competitive or whatever your strength is. And you probably just keep doing it over and over again. And a lot of people just say to themselves, but how would I get paid doing that? Like, that's not a skill. And I think in the job world, the skills thing makes a lot of sense because we sort of have that industrial era resume, like you need a skill, like I need you to do some sort of robot job. But I think in the business world, you should actually build a business based on your values, your strengths, your natural gifts, and to hell with all the stupid skills, because you can build them all. I mean, there are a million books and internet courses and everything else like that. But what you can't really change is you and what makes you happy and how you want to work. And honestly, life's too short to be working in a job you really hate, not using your God-given talents. So to me, it sort of should be a little bit backwards. And so yeah, I'm trying to sort of, instead of build myself up, sort of strip it down to be like, what do I want to do?
Yeah, I really like that because it's thinking about rather than trying to put yourself into a box, you're creating your own and building up the skills that you need to build your business and create the life that you want. And the purpose behind your business, it sounds like you want to help people create their own life. Was there
Yeah.
something specific around that?
Yeah, be free. Honestly, to me, the whole corporate world thing, like I've tried it so many times. I must have sent 1,000 resumes. I literally would help everybody I know with their resumes. I was so good at it. But I would get to the interview and I would be too entrepreneurial. I'd have ideas, or they'd be like, "You're never gonna stay." So, and honestly, who wants to be boxed in one of those jobs for forever, making like $32,000 a year? No, I don't want to. I've tried and tried, but it just not for me. I have done some very odd and interesting things though. Like I sold life insurance for 5 years. As a former fat person, I ended up being a personal trainer, which was so odd. I've sold linens. God, I've done so many things. It's just crazy. And it helps me with my clients because I've seen a million different jobs and business models. And I think what most people lack is a bit of imagination when you grow up, your parents help you to find a job, but they were limited of like, okay, so you can be an accountant and a lawyer and a doctor and you know what I mean? And they were like, okay, 20 jobs in their head that you could pick from. But that's not the world that we live in. We really can customize anything to be any which way that we want, but most people aren't used to thinking that way. And I would say with my sort of Jewish upbringing, outside of the box thinking was part of how we were taught to think. And so I like mix and match things. And even if you can't be the person or build the business that you really truly believe that you want to do, you just build out to that. That's the thing. Sometimes people get scared and like, I can't, how would I just, and it's like, but you can't just throw away the dream because of that and end up just being unhappy for the next 30 years. Like, let's figure out exactly what the beautiful dream is, like in 5 years from now, and let's build like levels to get there. So I usually do like a 5 year, 3 year, 1 year, show you how the organizational chart will change. And we figure out who do you need to become in order to lead the organization that you want to lead. And as long as you have the steps and you can figure it out, then you have a real dream, but also you have a plan. Because you know what the problem is, and I do this all the time, which is we make decisions from our present self, and our present self is a big lazy ass bastard. And he likes to eat Doritos and like drink beer and lie on the couch. And then the gremlins come in about you're not worthy and you're not smart enough and you're not this, you're not that. But if you make decisions from your future self, you make way, way different decisions.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
really great. My
that's what you need to do. Yeah.
yeah, my coach always says to me, your business partner is Leighton from 2033. Always think about what he would do.
I love that. Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the research shows that people believe that their future self is identical to their current self. And it's really quite a shame because if you even just give yourself like a 10% improvement over the next, you know what I mean? Like most people don't even think they can lose 10 pounds over the next 5 years, but the 2% improvement I mean, come on, right? Like people aren't setting their sights high enough for what they can actually achieve. And then there's this sort of blah feeling that we all have inside. And you know what I call it? I call it boredom. We are all seriously fucking bored with our lives because we're not being challenged. We're not being pushed. We're not learning what we need to be learning. And then we're unhappy and we don't know why, but it's because we're letting that gremlin and his bullshit, win. Mine's horrible, honestly horrible. Just, and he'll make me hide for like a year. I just was hiding for the last year and just coming out of it. And it's so hard. It's so hard, but we have to because like how big is your potential and the people that you can change and affect, and each person that you affect can affect more people and more. Do you know what I mean? Like the people that I want to help, I want them to speak on stages, which means that they can help 100, 500, 1,000 people at a time. Multiply that by how many days in a year, by how many years. Do you know what I mean? Over 25 years, even if you start at like 50 to 75, you're talking about thousands of people, all because, and if you listen to that stupid voice in your head and it all just ends up into being Doritos, I don't know. So,
One of the things I really like that you said, just jumping back a little bit, was creating that dream or the idea that you have and having that growth mindset to just build up those characteristics, those skills, and whatever you need to be able to do it. And it's almost like not having that restrictive mindset of only being the present you. It's like, imagine how great you could be in 5, 10, 20 years. It's so good. I had a question for you around freedom. You mentioned that earlier in the conversation. It's come up a lot for me in conversations with friends and family. What would freedom, or what does freedom look like for you in your mind?
freedom to say what you want to say, not be restricted. I think most people are so restricted in what they say, and even just turning 40, for a lot of people can really be like a change where they can start saying no to things that they didn't think that they could before. Um, not doing projects you don't like, not working with clients that you don't like, not doing going to weddings that you don't want to go to, not living where you don't want to live. Do you know what I mean? I just think that we have these invisible shackles, and sometimes you know that you're wearing them, and sometimes you don't. And it can be upsetting when you know that you do. But for me, I think that's what most entrepreneurs are looking for, or people who don't even want to be entrepreneurs. They feel like they're forced to because their life situation dictates the fact that they realize, like, I need to get my kid a house so that, or I need to homeschool my kid because he's not going to thrive in this school situation, or like, I want to travel. They're just, why not be free? Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And the
Yeah.
answer usually is because your parents will be disappointed. Like, is that it? Because I gotta tell you, your parents are probably gonna be disappointed or not disappointed. Does it matter? I think with most entrepreneurs, every one of them was disappointed with their kid until they saw their kid happy and or become rich, and then they were actually 10 times more proud of their kid than they were before that when they understood what they did. And that's usually the difference, right? Is we're scared to tell our parents we do this like online whatever and they won't understand. I promise you, my parents never understood what I did, no matter what job I did. They didn't care because it doesn't phase them. So sort of just do what you want anyways and explain to the people who care about it what you do, and the rest, eh.
Yeah, such a valuable point. It's really following what makes you happy. And I know for me that I got stuck in my corporate job for the best part of 15 years. And yes, I enjoyed aspects of it, but was I truly happy? Not until I stepped outside of that and started following my passion and my dreams. And something else you mentioned about the drive of what drives you to build that business and succeed and find your freedom or whatever it is your goal is to supply schooling for your children, a home, and all of that.
Well, I think it's layered. I think that we have multiple whys, three specifically, actually. I think that we have a personal why, something that affects us directly, our family at that level. Then we have a business why of like sort of the happiness that we get. We call it in Jewish nachas. It's like pride of the people that we help, the business connections, like the difference that you make in a client's life. And then we have a third level why. This is your purpose, your big why. And this is the difference that you want to make in the world. In most corporate jobs, that's not important. That's so not anywhere close. But I really do believe in sort of Abraham Maslow's self-actualization thing, except for that in his time, you worked up to it basically by way of assets, like how rich you were.
Yeah.
But I think in today's world, you can combine that in sort of any business that you want, and feel that you're making a difference. When you say and work towards what you think will make a difference, your personal legacy, you're not as bored. You're just not, because you know that your life's making a difference. Otherwise, the sort of, then why be here, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're not a robot. That's the companies want to turn you into a robot, but let's fight back and let's be humans. Especially, let's do that before all the AI robots take over. I'm just saying.
Yeah. We're all so unique. It's really important that we embrace that. On
Yeah.
your journey, obviously you've had different challenges along the way. Is there something that comes up in terms of like the biggest challenge that has come up for you?
Oh, always mindset stuff. Just
Yeah.
believing in myself, and I basically always convince myself at some point that I can't do this. So there's a framework, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, called immunity to change from Robert Keegan.
No.
It's a very interesting notion. The idea is that people set goals, right? And then they blow it. And they don't know why they blow it. And the reason that they blow it is some underlying subconscious thing that you also have a goal. And they're competing like a seesaw. And as soon as you go, and you don't realize it, and there's something else that you're also succeeding at by not doing it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it would have been easy in the first place. And if you can't figure out what that competing subconscious thing is, you're going to keep sort of fighting it. And that needs to be sort of changed at an identity level. And people don't set goals at an identity level. That's something that what's his name from Atomic Habits?
James
Clear. Thank you.
James Clear. Yep.
So James Clear helped me to lose weight sort of once and for all. I had lost like 25, 30 pounds. So I go up between like 125, 165. I've gotten up to like 170. And the difference on me between 125 and 170, it's stark, right? Like I go from like a size 6 to like, I've been up to like, I don't know, 16 or 14 or something. You know what I mean? My face is like a different shape. So I wanted to lose the weight again. I was drinking heavily, which obviously I had to stop. But I said to myself, why am I even going to bother? Like, I'm going to be on a diet and suffer for like a year and a half. For in a year from now, I'll gain the weight back and just do this. So why suffer? Just like, why? So I realized that my equation was sort of incomplete, because what you focus on at the beginning is, how do I lose weight? Like that's what people, when I was a personal trainer, they're like, how do I lose weight? I'm like, listen, honey, you already know. You're asking me, really. This is soda. This is good. The answer is, you eat better, you eat less crap, you exercise, drink some water, stop drinking so much. Like this is not a secret, but they're looking for the secret. But there's no secret. Everybody knows. Put the chips down, right? Pick up the broccoli, put down the chips. You're gonna lose some weight. So, but the equation wasn't lose weight. Like, where's the other part of stay there? And the answer was, I hadn't changed my mindset. I was on a diet. Mm-hmm. And what James Clear says is, instead of focusing on like, okay, if you're going to go for a marathon, you know what happens after you finish a marathon? You stop running every day because you've accomplished your goal. So what I had to do was say to myself, okay, I am now, and I went for the lighter versions. I didn't go for athlete, which is probably what other people would do, but like I was a fat 40-something-year-old, so I went with, I'm an active person. And then, so it's sort of like the future version of you, right? So I'd ask like, okay, instead of future Suzy, I'd ask active Suzy, how would you behave? What would you do? And so active Suzy would just like exercise every day in some way. She would be physically active. So I just happened to own like a bicycle, like, so it cost me nothing. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to go for a bike ride every day. Plus I was a quitter at the time. And I was like, okay, you know the gremlin, how hard it is to get on that bicycle every day.
Yeah.
So hard. It didn't matter. And I was I owned an automatic, not electric, automatic bicycle at the time, because I didn't even know how to change gears. They would laugh at me when I would go into the bike shop, because they were like, I've never seen an automatic bicycle before. I was like, anyways, so I would just literally need to go on and go around for a block. Sometimes I would cry. Sometimes people walking would pass me by. I mean, seriously, I was saying, but I was like, but this is how an active person behaves. You know what I mean? And I start every 3 weeks, I would change one little thing, most people, when they go on a diet, it's like, okay, everything's out the window. Do you know what I mean? You have nothing to cope with. And I was like, but that's not how an active person does. They just change one little thing here, one there over time. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of thing is the same thing that you can do in business. Most people have this job mentality of, this is what I do, like I'm a coach. But no, you're the CEO of your company and you have a mission. You're going to have employees. You have a message. You have lots of things. And they're like, I don't know how to do any of that. I'm like, every 3 weeks, we'll just add a little thing, we'll change a little thing, you know what I mean? But first we got to start with, who are you? And the answer is a visionary CEO. You're trying to change your industry. You're standing up for the change that you want to see in people. And you can't do that when you're just a coach. Now you're a speaker. Now you're a CEO. Now you're looking around the corner of what's coming up in the industry. How can you make a difference? You're HR and you're the lawyer and you're the accountant and if you don't want to do all those things, over the next year, 3 years, we are going to hire or farm out all these things. But right now you're just ignoring them all because it's an incomplete formula of coach equals entrepreneur, like CEO. No, there's like 50 roles in that organizational chart. And you're choosing to do the bottom one, but the bottom one's the replaceable one, right? Employees are all replaceable. No, you're in business now. Guess what? You got all those different things. So, we just need a plan for it. And it's hard. It's hard to agree, I'm going to change and I'm going to improve, because Our major gremlin likes us to coast while we're eating the chips, likes to be safe. And everything that I say to my people is like, oh no, you're going to go up and do some hard shit, right? Like you're going to speak on a stage to 500 people. You're going to be a guest on a podcast. You're going to say things that you think are wrong with your industry. And they're like, oh my God, what's my mother going to think? And then the answer is, who cares? Because your life is boring right now and you're meant for more. And I think that's the important part is every person I've ever asked, they all say, I don't want to be going to stage. And I go, uh-huh. But did you hear God say you're meant for more and that you should be? And they all go, yes, I know I'm supposed to be. Well, then I'm behind you. Like, let's fucking do this, right? It's hard. It's hard. But if you want more, then you have to push.
Yeah, so true. With your steps along the way, you were kind of saying that you would just change maybe one or two things every 3 weeks and implementing new ideas to become this active version of you. Was there anything else you did or any kind of tips that you have for people listening who are struggling to get into that or to find the motivation or to find that routine or to implement those habits? Do you have any tricks or tips?
Well, I'll tell you two things that I did that seems absolutely crazy and stupid. So the first one was I took a course on exercising. Actually, I had gone to this employment agency and I had applied for this grant to help me to start my business, whatever business idea I had at the time. And I was refused. And I was standing outside at my bicycle and I was just looking at my phone and I got an email that said, the local gym Good Life had this exercise course and I was like, okay, whatever, sign from God, let's just go sign. So anyways, I get to this course. It was that weekend, like it would get me out of the house, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, let's just do that. And I look around and it's all these like 20 something kids who are all just ripped. And I was like, what's going on? You people don't look like you need to learn how to exercise. And they're like, yeah, no, actually it's for our personal trainers who have made it 3 months. They need to be licensed. So
Okay.
so I was in the wrong place. But was it the wrong place or was it sort of God, directing things? So I was like, okay, you know what? This would be cool because if I can become a personal trainer, then, I can make like 50 or 75 an hour, work like at nighttime and then have clients during the day. This is like a perfect idea. And I asked like the guy who was running it, like, should I get out of here? Cause I'm really old and like a fat person on the inside. And he's like, absolutely not, because most of the people who hire trainers are between 50 and like 75 and they're fat and they've never exercised and they hate broccoli. Like I absolutely hate broccoli. And they're like, you can relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
And these 22-year-olds who are doing marathons on the weekend, what do they have in common? And so I said, okay. And then I ended up going for this job. And honestly, like the manager was 24 and like a size 2. And I was like there. I was like, okay, so I showed her like a before and after photo and she hired me. And then you know what I had to do? Because I didn't really know what I was doing. Because I joined another gym and I hired my own personal trainer and he would teach me what I needed to do, like with my clients for like the following week. He was teaching me how to like lift a barbell. I didn't know all this. I mean, I took a weekend course to become a personal trainer. This was not like a 1-year program. It was a weekend.
Yeah.
So I think, to match with the metaphor is you need to take courses, you need to hire a coach, you need to step out and maybe get some sort of intern job, or pay for an online course. Sometimes I'll do that, a couple of grand or whatever. But there's always ways to improve. I find people are very lazy about it. Like I'll see them, so I play pool. And I'm starting to think about maybe doing it like, in a bigger way. But I see people there and they just play. But they call it like practicing. They're playing. Every week they're playing. But are they improving? And I'm going to say, I bet you they're not improving 2% in the whole year. And I've been really working at it. And you see me there for an hour or two a day. And I'm working on like 10 different things. I've got plans. Like I'm improving like by 100% over like the last 2 months or something like that. they can't even imagine that because their mentality isn't built on that premise that you can even do that.
Hmm.
But we really can. If you have somebody showing you the way, I mean, I spend more time reading books and thinking about this stuff, you know what I mean? Like right now I'm reading a book called Peak by, I think it's Anders Anderson, and he's the research guy behind how violinists become world class, you know, the 10,000 hour rule, that sort of thing. And it's, you know, I'm trying to understand, well, how do I build a training program that will get me to the level where I can compete like on a world stage? And the answer is always there is a way. You just have to look for it. And like you can go walk around the block, but you're not going to become, you know, world class or lead, you know, a mission or, you know, be ripped. Like that's great to be active and healthy. But it depends on how big your dream is. If your dream is really big, then you need to make big bold steps, you know what I mean? And be, I promise you, it was very uncomfortable to be in that class full of 20-year-olds. And in my job, almost all the trainers were 20-something-year-olds. They were like ex-baseball athletes. They were, I remember sitting there one day in the room, the break room, and they were talking about, what do they call these things? Triathlons. And they were asking like, which one is their favorite sport in the triathlon? And I was like, God, why am I here? Please tell me this is the wrong effing room for me. I like, but you know what? It's I changed because of it. I made a decision to never go back to being a fat person.
Yeah.
I made rules. So for example, I can go up and down in my weight, but I never get past like say 10 pounds. Automatically triggers. You know how it triggers? I can't buy bigger clothes. So
Okay.
if I can't close my jeans, I walk around with my jeans undone or I can't breathe
Hmm.
and that's it. Do you know what I mean? People just keep moving the bar of how lazy they can be about something.
Yeah.
And in this one particular way, I made rules of what I'm allowed to do or not allowed to do. And you can do that for anything in your life, right? And you can do that for your business of, okay, or a job. Like my ex-boss is gonna call me back, and I just have a rule that says, I'm sorry, no. If you want to talk to me like in a year from now, then I will reconsider it. But like I'm giving myself a full year. You know what I mean? You make your own guidelines of what is acceptable, but we all need to raise the bar
Yeah, that's really good. Like
on what
setting,
we on what we accept as bullshit in our lives.
yeah,
Yeah.
setting the boundaries, setting the limits, setting the rules. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good. Before we finish up, I think there's been lots of good advice in there. But is there one piece of advice that you would give your younger self or someone who's not sure what they want to do with their life, not sure what kind of direction they want to go in? What would you say to that person?
I think we all really actually do know what we like, what we want to do. We just don't believe that we can. We literally believe it's not possible for us. And I think that we live in a world where even part-time as a hobby, you can chip away at that. But we set it aside completely. So if you want to be a great musician, well, then you got to pick up that instrument every day. Or in gym sort of worlds, like 5 to 7 days a week is how someone gets ripped. And the
Hmm.
same thing for my pool. I see these people and they're playing once or twice a week, and they're like, I don't know why I'm not improving. You're walking around the block once or twice a week. You can't go to the gym once or twice a week and get ripped. That's not how God makes it happen. Nothing happens till after 4. You know what I mean? Baseline is 3 or 4. 1 or 2 is you got to improve. 5 to 7 is where stuff happens. So hire a coach, start reading books, watch videos, especially videos where they give you the how they're thinking, how to improve, how to do better.
Hmm.
So like in pool, there's one YouTube channel where he literally shows how Efren Reyes thinks. And every time I rewatch that, my level goes up because I can think better than other people on a table. I literally, they break and I can tell you the exact order of the run out.
Hmm.
And most people are just concentrating on one ball.
Yeah.
And that's part of that book, Peaks, is having mental representations that make things go faster in your brain. And you need to build that for whatever industry that you're in. And so it costs you nothing to read a chapter in a book every day. Watch the course over and over again. I do that because my gremlin tells me, I'm not getting it. Suzy, you're not getting it. And nothing says I have to get it on the first time. So I'll read a book 2 times. I'll rewatch the course every day, 3 times, and then get another course and get another book, do informational interviewing, go hang out where they hang out, hire a coach, even in a small, so you don't have to just jump ship of like, go from your corporate job to a business, but don't give up on the dream. Like, chip away at it so that it really does feel real. Take that, future version of you and figure out, where do I need to get, like, what are the steps? And then you work your way backwards. But I'm telling you, you're not getting there without a coach, because they can see what you can't see. You don't know what to even know what to look for. So, you just have to find someone. And books are the cheapest, right? I mean, I download them, get them from the library. There's always YouTube. It's a million channels on YouTube. Yeah. There's always, right? But yeah, you got to fight. To me, the biggest battle is the gremlin.
Yeah. Overcoming that mindset. And as you say, there's so many resources out there. It's just finding the right ones that work for you and taking those steps. Yeah. Amazing. Suzy, thank you so much for coming on. Before we finish up, I just wanted to ask you a question about your cycling. So you committed to cycling every single day. How many days are you on?
Got 1,100, I think. I'm at 11:32 because I already went for a bicycle ride today. So yeah, rain or shine, snow, travel, it doesn't make a difference. And it's not about how far I go, honestly, because sometimes I will pedal 2 steps. But the getting myself, like, honestly, if I've forgotten all day and it's 11 o'clock and my thing dings, do you know what I mean? I'm like, shit, there is no part of me that wants to go out in a Canadian winter. Do you know what I mean? And I've gone with it, hailing. So I went to my ballet class and it was so bad that I walked in, it was only men. And I'm going to tell you, that's not normal in a ballet class. No, but all women and like 1 token man. It was only men. And this Montrealer who had bicycled there with her like snow tires. Because you know what? This is the one place that I've chosen to fight back. Again, I've elevated. I'm not letting my gremlin win in this one way. Every day, I have one time where I win.
Yeah. So powerful. I love it. Suzy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And there we have it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. The biggest takeaway for me was around the immunity for change and how sometimes in our mind, we're essentially protecting ourselves. So while we've got one goal in our head and the direction that we're going, then something in our subconscious mind that wants us to achieve something else. It could be protection, it could be safety, could be security. But knowing that failing to do something could be an underlying mindset means that we can actually change the outcome. We can change the way that we interact with that challenge and how we overcome it. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did, and we'll see you again next week.